Hey everybody, welcome back. Devin, the OG original Grognard, sitting down back here at the Grognard's Corner. And what are we looking at? We are looking at Conquistador, the Age of Exploration, 1495 to 1600. Originally Strategy and Tactics SPI magazine game, then made into a flat box game. And then Avalon Hill picked it up, and the Avalon Hill version is the version I am playing. And from what I understand, GMT has picked it up as well. And they are completely, well, not completely, but they are redoing it and hopefully release here within the next year and a half, 2 years. I'll get to more on that in a little bit. I think the GMT version is going to be really, really cool. The original SPI and Avalon Hill system, as you can see, uses hexes, which mid 1970s was the prevalent way of doing things. Area system was virtually unheard of at the time. However, as I go through and explain how the system and the areas work, I think you'll understand that an area system would be far better, and that's what GMT is going with. They're going with an area system, movement system instead of a hex system. And like I said, hopefully you'll be able to understand why I think that's a good thing as I go through and explain the game. Probably not going to get it. Well, I know I'm not going to get into any gameplay today. I'm still reviewing the rules, but I did want to go over kind of what I'm looking forward to doing, what my goals are, what my overall plan is, and just give people kind of an idea of the game itself. As obviously it kind of says in the title, Conquistador, Age of Exploration, you play a European country exploring the New World, all the way down from the tip of South America all the way up to Canada, west coast to east coast. In the main game, there were, in the original SPI game, I think there was only 2 or 3 nationalities. I think Avalon Hill added the 4th one when they got it, and then they released a general article in the general magazine number 15. Number 15-2, I think it was, that actually added a couple more nationalities and a bunch more rules, and actually made the rules in that general magazine were longer than the actual base game rules itself for the base game, but it added a whole bunch of cool stuff that were period specific. If you take a look at the map, there are these black spaces on the map that are basically untraversable. You can't do anything with them. And if you notice, several Caribbean islands are that way. Well, in the general magazine, they opened those up. They introduced the slave trade. There was the fur trade, and you could do fur trading if you were up in Canada, or what would become Canada, North America. Think there were rules for privateers, but this game, the Conquistador, the Avalon Hill version, has 4 nationalities into it: Spain, Portugal, England, and France. And they really kind of missed the mark on the colors. They have the 4 colors. You got, they got all right. Red for Britain, blue for France, but then they made Spain green and Portugal yellow. No. Spain is always yellow, Portugal's always green. I don't know why they screwed that up. And then there's the Germans. There are some German units. There could be a 5th player, the German banker, but that's about as exciting as only playing the bank in Monopoly. You really don't do much. You decide if someone needs to borrow money, you decide if you're going to let them borrow money and at what interest rates. And yeah, they kind of sit around twiddling their thumbs. And there are a few German explorers, and the German player can decide, all right, who's gonna pay for these German explorers. So yeah, nobody wants to play the Germans unless you want to sit back and not really do anything at all. So this could be up to a 4-player game. However, Portugal, really, you don't really want to get stuck playing with Portugal. One of the basic concepts behind the game is you have leaders, you have explorers, navigators, and the Spaniards have conquistadors. That's actually a conquistador right there. Let me see if I can find an explorer. So there you go. You need Columbus. You need an explorer to be able to put down colonists, and putting down colonists is the only way that you can go towards capturing these little different territories. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so we can see kind of some of the territory. So yeah, here we have like East Coast, which is, just these few hexes right here, and Atlantic Coast. Each of the areas are defined by the red dotted lines. Here's, the deep south, and you kind of see the dotted lines for them. And the Caribbean. So, and the only way you can claim those areas to get victory points for them is by putting down colonists. The only way you can put down colonists is if you have explorers. Spain, of course, has the most explorers. Portugal has crap for explorers. They have very, very few explorers, and they come very few and far between. So, and each explorer can die when they're out exploring. There's a random chance. Anytime they do anything, there's like a 1 in 6 chance of them dying flat out. Plus, explorers only last a certain number of turns, 1, 2, 3 turns, what have you. Each turn represents 5 years worth of time. And England kind of suffers with the same. Well, England and France and Portugal all suffer from a lack of decent of explorers, period. England starts to get a lot more later as the game goes on, but Portugal is like maybe 5 or 6 the entire game, so they don't get a chance to set down many routes. England or France is kind of the same way. They don't have very many explorers at all. They don't get to put Spain's got them all, and England gets a bunch near the end of the game. At the end of the day, from a 4-player standpoint, I've been looking into articles and watching videos and reading reviews. Is this a good balanced game? No, it's not. If you get stuck with Portugal, yeah, you're kind of screwed. If you get stuck with France, yeah, you're kind of screwed. Spain, yeah, you're going to be a powerhouse at the beginning. Britain, you're going to be a powerhouse at the end. Historically accurate? Of course it is. Does it make for a compelling 4-player game? Not really. I'm hoping GMT will address this situation and give, Portugal and France more perks or more advantages or more chances to have explorers to set down colonists to make it more of an even game. Because if not, it's just like, all right, if you're Spain or you're England, Spain, you can try to win the game early. Britain, you got to wait until a later game. You're going to win the game. That's all there is to it. However, what I'm going to be doing for this playthrough is there is a Solitaire version, Solitaire rules for this. And I am going to be playing this Solitaire, and I am going to be playing as Spain. I know, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, they get a lot of stuff early game. And I always play Spain whenever I do, Age of Exploration or Middle Ages or anything like that. I always like playing Spain. So yes, I'm going to be going through and playing as Spain. I probably am not going to be playing the entire game. It's 21 turns long. Turns can go kind of quick, but by the same token, I don't think I need to play the entire game for everybody to get kind of an idea and a feel. And honestly, this is a tough game. This is really a rough game. I may not even make it to the end of the game before I go bankrupt and run out of money and my, the colonies go crashing down in flames. So, what does the gameplay consist of? Well, every turn, you get a certain number, depending on what turn it is. Like on turn 1, you get a certain number of explorers and navigators or conquistadors. Spain is special. They get conquistadors. They also have missionaries. England, I think their special abilities, they get privateers. And I couldn't even tell you what France and Portugal get is because I don't think they get anything special. But every turn you get explorers and conquistadors. And basically the picture and the name of who they are, so you can tell that's a conquistador because it's a dude wearing a conquistador hat. And then there's a sextant, so that's a navigator, and it's Columbus. And you got 2 numbers up here. First number is the turn that they actually appear in, so turn 1. And the second number is the turn that they actually disappear. Well, they don't disappear. It's just historically that's when they stop doing anything. And you actually remove them at the end of the turn if they haven't died by then. And then you have a certain number of buckets, gold, cash, bucks, dinero, whatever you want, and you got to roll to see how many more ducats you get every turn for your nation. And then there's random political events that could happen, and there's some really bad things that could happen to you. Then you have to plan out your expeditions, and there's I don't have a sheet out, right? But there's this sheet that you write down, plan out. You got to buy everything, and one of the things that kind of would lend this better to an area movement game is that you have to buy what they call bounds for your expeditions, for your ships. And if you look on the map, and I might as well go ahead and go over what all these. We'll look at like the Caribbean right here. Okay, so you have the name is the Caribbean. This number right here in the parentheses, that's basically how many bounds it is back to Europe or from Europe to here. When you're planning your expeditions, you have to decide where you want to land, and you have to pay how many bounds it's going to take you to get there. You also have to pay how many bounds it's going to take to get back if you want the ships to return. You also have to pay if you want to do any extra movement with your ships. Once they get to an area, every 8 hexes equals 1 bound. So you really got to be pre-planning. So if you want an expedition to go out to the Caribbean and back, that's going to be 6 bounds. And then if you want to move those ships around anywhere, it's every 8 hexes you move is 3 of those 8, or no, 8 for every 8 movement points you plan on spending in an area or just anywhere is going to cost you another bound. Landing an expedition costs 3 of those movement points. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, what does this represent? This represents food stores, water, personnel, just the overall general maintenance and fees that an expedition is going to require. You're going to need food and water to get there. You're going to need food and water to get back. You're going to need food and water as you're moving around in the area. So that's why you have to pay for these in advance. Now, for example, why would you want to pre-purchase bounds inside an area? Well, a lot of the game goes off of initiative. Say, for example, you're playing Portugal, and in the first turn, say Spain has initiative, but for some reason, both of you have decided you're going to go to the Caribbean, and say both of you are going to go to the Caribbean, and both of you want to land at Chichen Itza. Well, you both write down, you're pre-plotting. Oops, this helps if I even actually point it toward Chichen Itza. All plotting is done simultaneously. So if Spain gets to go first, they're going to come out here. They're going to spend, for the Mayan Empire, it's 4 bounds to go to their east coast, 12 bounds to go to the west coast. Now, I will also point out, nobody can go to the west coast until someone has discovered, gone around the Cape. And that is a very risky deal in itself, in its own right. And basically, it's the rudder, which is the navigational charts for getting around the Cape. Then you can start landing on the west coast. But for the most part, at the beginning of the game, you're going to be landing on the east coast. So, say for the Mayan Empire, it's 4 east, so it's 4 bounds there and 4 bounds back. So you're paying for 8 bounds already. But what if, in our example, Spain has initiative first? They land at Chichen Itza. Well, the Portuguese probably are not going to have, even though they're plotted to land there, they may not have the naval or soldier forces to try to kick the Spaniards out of Chichen Itza. So instead of landing at Chichen Itza, they're going to have to go someplace else. So they get 8 movement points that they can, if you actually spent it. If not, you're going to be overspending, and then there's extra fees that you got to pay if you have to pay for bounds that you don't, or if you have to pay for bounds that you didn't originally plan for, you're going to be paying extra maintenance fees. But so if Spain lands in Chichen Itza, the Portuguese may decide, all right, well, fortunately I spent for an extra bound there, so it's 4 bounds to get to the Mayan Empire. Well, since I can't land it, and since I don't want to contest them in Chichen Itza, well, why don't I just go over to Cuba and land at Cuba? So they spend a couple movement points and that extra bound. So this is where and why I think an area system works a lot better than hexes, because you can just say, all right, this is an area, this is an area, you got one, you can move from one area to another instead of having, different movement points. Soldiers have 8 movement points on land, and colonists have 4 movement points on land. Ships have 8 movement points for every bound you spend or want to spend. So I think the area movement will work better It'll open up the map a little bit, probably make it look a little bit nicer. But, it's like, all right, Venezuela is its own area. Panama is its own. Because the hexes inside here really don't mean anything when it comes to what's going on. And, well, what is going on in an area? Now let's take a look at the Caribbean again. So the Caribbean, we already know this number, the parentheses, is how many bounds it takes to get there and to get back. Well, you got all these numbers down here, 3, 2, R2. Now, if I remember correctly, and I might get these backwards, I believe 3 is the native level. That's how many natives are actually living there. And they can be a problem because as the more colonists you put in here, the greater chance they have of uprising and trying to wipe out your colonists. Now, you can eliminate the natives, and right or wrong, it's something you need to do if you want to secure an area to get victory points, because this game is all about victory points. So you can actually use your soldiers to eliminate the native populace and the native influence or presence in each one of these areas, which will decrease the chances of them having an uprising, killing your colonists, all that other good stuff. So that's the first number. So, that's like a 3. The second number is the what do they call it? It's the attrition number, but there's something specific that they call. What is the specific? I think it's just called the attrition number. It's how hard it is for Europeans to live there. It's basically every turn, and you're going to be doing this a lot. Rolling attrition. You move naval capacities. Roll for attrition to see if the ships get sunk. You do anything on land. You roll to see if you lose colonists or you lose soldiers. So that's how difficult it is, and that's also modified by if it's coast hex, it's like it's one easier, and we have different types of terrains. So for example, you've got rough terrain. Brown is the rough terrain, and then this kind of tan is clear. But so if we take a look at the Incan Empire, it's a 6-3. So lots of natives there with the 6. It's a 3 attrition. But if you're in the mountains, it's like an additional +1. So if you've got colonists trying to start a settlement, or even if you're just moving troops through, the Incan Empire is the attrition 3 chart, and then an additional +1 on the chart because you're in rough. And let's see if I can find the land attrition. Yeah, right there's the land attrition. So you look, it's like, all right, base of 3 +1 is a 4. Roll a 6-sided dice, and it's like, colonist soldiers, 2 colonist soldiers. It can be really, really bad. But if you're on the coast, it's a -1, and there's different modifiers. So the game does take into effect where you're at is how easy it will be for your people to survive. And as I was saying about rolling attrition, let's see it, because I think the chart, if you can actually even see the chart, you may not be able to. So you got the random events segment, initial determination, planning segment, then the initial naval phase, transoceanic, hemispheric movement, naval attrition segment, which it doesn't matter if you got boats out there, you got to roll attrition on them. Land phase, gold, land movement, native combat uprising, native uprising, land attrition. There we go, more land attrition, resource segment, and then final naval phase, transoceanic movement, naval attrition. See, you're rolling attrition a lot. You're going to be losing lots and lots and lots of troops, ships, and it's a very brutal game. I have never played Conquistador before, so I am going into this with no preconceived notions of what good tactics are or what it is or what what's the best way to play. There are victory points for discovering things, and let's see if I can zoom in on that chart and give people a good idea. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be clear enough. Well, you know what? Let's just move the camera off. Oh my God, the camera's moving. We've never seen the camera move like this before. Oh God! But yeah, there's some discovery tables. North America, a mainland hex north of Sonora. If you're the first one to discover, it's 35 victory points. South America, expedition to Hudson's Bay, St. Lawrence, the Mississippi Land Expedition. Central America, Rio de Plata, circumventing to Europe. Amazon, whatever, they're all these things, and especially if you're the first one to get to the Pacific Ocean through the Cape, that's 150 victory points. So there's that way of getting victory points. How much money you have in your Treasury at the end of the game determines victory points. There's a whole bunch of different ways to gather victory points. There isn't much in the way, usually isn't much in the way of combat and warfare. Most people usually can't support the funds for an army to be aggressive against other players. Although it could come up. It's like, say, France landed in the Caribbean, and this is a if you can kind of see it. When I first looked at the board, I just thought it was a plains hex that wasn't completely drawn correctly, or just partial plains hex. No, it's a gold bar. So there's mines there, and mines are a good way to get money, because you're not going to be making a lot of money back home, and your colonists are really not going to be making a lot of money until later in the game. So really the biggest source of your income is going to be from colonists. Well, say if France landed here in the Caribbean, was mining this mine, say there had been an uprising, and say they've only got like one colonist and one soldier there and no ships, and Spain is going to know they're going to go first. They got initiative. They could build up 2 or 3 armies, a couple ships, a couple colonists in there to knock the French out of that mine so they can take the mine over. That's mostly what you're going to be seeing a lot of combat. You get victory points if you dominate an area, and to dominate an area, I think you got to completely eliminate the native presence and have 3 colonists and have more colonists than any opponent. And at least 3, but more than your opponent. So, if someone really wanted a territory, say for some reason England and France had both stuck colonists in the deep south, and, neither one of them are able to control that area unless they knock the other one out, sure, you may see some combat then. Mostly it's a game about exploration. The other thing I wanted to point out about an area, the area numbers. So you got native presence, you got attrition difficulty, and then you got this R2. It's basically a rich province, and that basically doubles all income that settlers have. Well, the problem with settlers is you can have 5 settlers in a hex that you can get taxes, trade, whatever you want to call it, but it's only 1 gold per turn. If they're in an R2, it's actually doubled. Now, the problem with colonists is colonists have a maintenance cost of 2 per turn. So unless you start off your colonists in a rich 2 area, you're going to be at a deficit every turn, because colonists only produce 1 gold, but they need 2 to maintain. The only way you can get the 2 gold per is if you're in R2. Now, there is a little thing as the game turn continues to go on. That multiplier does go up. So at turn 7, colonist multipliers go up to R2. So that means all colonists will now produce 2 gold per turn. And of course, that would be doubled if they were in an R2 zone. So up until turn 6, each colonist in the Caribbean would be producing 2 gold, which is basically paying for themselves and not causing a burden to the home country. As soon as turn 7 hits, though, now they're starting to make money, because each colonist is now worth 2 gold that they bring in. Caribbean being a rich country, now those colonists are producing 4 gold per turn. Now they're starting to see something, and that goes up in turn 13. Colonists produce 3, and then at turn 17 they produce 4, and turn 20 they start producing 5. And again, if you've got a colonist, so say it's turn 20, you've got 5 colonists there. Each of those 5 colonists are producing 5 a turn for 25, and it's a rich 2, which doubles that again to 50. Well, yeah, 100 years ago when you first landed here, they were producing 2 gold, and by the 1600s they're now producing 50 gold. So that's kind of how you want to kind of plan out your colonies, and hope that they can stick around until the end of the game. So yeah, anyways, I will be playing as the Spanish, the green Spaniards. Don't get me started again. Playing solo, there are rules, there is charts that I am going to be rolling that'll be having the other nations placed down, and it's probably is going to be much more aggressive and much more prosperous than if I was playing each nation individually, because like I said, you just roll randomly. If I was playing as the Portuguese only have like 5 explorers. They might get 5 areas that they would get settled in. But using the random tables, we could see Portugal having 8 or 9 colonies scattered throughout. So it's going to be a little bit interesting. And I'm not really in it for the combat. I mean, when we get to these type of Age of Exploration games, actually, we're hitting the 25-minute mark. I'll be right back. When we do these type of Age of Exploration games, I'm not really in it for the combat. It's like EU3, EU4, Europa Universalis on the computer. Both the third and the fourth one. I almost always play Spain. Very rarely do I ever play anything else. And what do? I always go after the New World. I just want to explore. I want to search. I want to, set up new colonies. I want to do the trade thing. Not too interested in the whole war thing. Yeah, when I play EU4, it's like, all right, I got to deal with France every once in a while. But it's like, just leave me alone. Let me play in the New World. Let me do my thing. Let me explore. So I'm not really going to be looking as Spain to go to war. My initial plan, what I want to do with Spain, and like I said, no plan ever survives the first contact. It's a military axiom. Everybody knows. I want the Caribbean because there are gold mines in the Caribbean, and I am going to need the cash. I want to try to establish in the Caribbean, in the Deep South, maybe move into the Aztec Empire, and then move northwest. Towards California and the Pacific Northwest. That's the plan. That's what my overall guiding arc is going to be. I may crash and burn in the Caribbeans. We don't know. Knowing me, I probably will. Probably crash very bad. But that's my overall initial plan. You can see there's plenty of gold mines. And the gold mines are cool because they give you 25 gold a turn until they deplete, and you have to roll randomly every turn to deplete. But you also have to roll randomly to see if you can even find them. There's no guarantee. Just say I put some explorers or colonists there. Doesn't guarantee I'm going to be able to find that mine that's there. Every turn I have colonists, I have to roll to see if I find them. And when I start working the mines, I have to roll to see if I deplete them. There are, of course, also the treasure cities. I already mentioned Chichen Itza and Cusco of the Incan Empire. There's a third one. I can't remember where it's at. Where is it? Where is the third one? Oh, yeah. Quetzalcoatl. I think. The Aztec Empire. Yes, apologies to my Spanish-speaking companions and watchers out there. I haven't got my glasses on. So those are the three treasure cities bring you lots and lots and lots of gold in. Now, there is random rules, and I may go with this, that there are 6 of these these treasure city markers out there. 4 of them are decent, but 4 of them are nothing. There's nothing there. What I think and basically at the beginning of the game, you turn these over and you place them out. All the players place them out randomly. So basically, you don't know where these treasure cities are. I think I'm probably going to go with that. And what I'm going to do is there's 20 different areas. I'll just roll randomly for where these treasure areas or these treasure cities are going to be at, find out what zone they're at, and then even roll randomly. It's like, oh, well, let's see. Deep South has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They got 16 hexes. I'll roll randomly or, do a random number generator, see which of the 16 hexes in there that the treasure city is actually at. And since they'll be upside down, I won't know if it's an actual treasure city. I think that'll give a little bit more to the exploration value. It's like, if you start off, yes, we know Chichen Itza and Cusco and the Aztec capital, they were all treasure cities. If you know that going into the game, it's like, all right, well, I'm just, as Spain, since I've got all the money, I'm just going to plop myself right down on Chichen Itza right at the very beginning and start whoring in that gold right from the get-go. But what if Chichen Itza wasn't there? We have to explore to find all these treasure cities. So, I think I'm going to be going with the random treasure city location for that. Is there anything else I really wanted to go over? No, not really. I think that was it, and I still need to clarify a couple of the rules, get it firm in my head. And as usual, I am not a clever man. You should not be watching this video to learn how to play the game because I'm going to get stuff wrong. This really is not a difficult game. I mean, on the scale of other Avalon Hill games, it really says an Avalon Hill game. It's an SPI game. It is written much clearer and much easier than your typical Avalon Hill game. This ain't Squad Leader. This ain't Gunslinger. This ain't Up Front. But there are still a few things that I need to go through and clarify in my mind to make sure I've got set good. And I'm going to make mistakes. That's what I do. I am not a clever man. We do not watch my videos to learn games. We watch my videos to laugh at me make mistakes and my witty repertoire and my horrible pronunciation of words. That's why we watch my videos. I'm the guy everybody else can laugh at. Anyways, that I think is pretty much everything. Hopefully we'll actually get down and start recording gameplay in a day or two. I might even do it this afternoon, depending on how I'm feeling. It's kind of hot here. It's like 70 degree there in Seattle. Yeah, I know the rest of the country's baking under a heat wave, and it's 70 degrees, and I think it's hot. So I'm gonna go have me a couple Otter Pops and turn my air conditioning on, so I can cool down from this massively overheated 70 degrees. Bring on the hate, people. I know. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms. You know the spiel in the comment section. I'll talk to everybody later. See ya.